Welcome to the On Your Mind podcast, where we are changing the mental health narrative, bringing hope and solutions. Here's your host, Timothy J. Hayes, psychologist.
Robert Imbeault is a successful entrepreneur and critically acclaimed author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Before I Leave You, a memoir on suicide, addiction, and healing. He is currently the chief operating officer of a wellness company and lives in Ottawa, Canada with his wife and daughters. In Before I Leave You, Robert shares his real and raw account of how he clawed his way back from the brink, forgave himself, and wrote a new ending to his story. After a series of small steps forward and a few steps back, Robert found his way to sobriety. He regained his health and began to treat himself and everyone around him with love and kindness. Today, Robert enjoys a life filled with gratitude and joy he thought he'd never live to see. Well, it's a delight to meet you. Thanks, Rob, for talking to us today. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. Pleasure to meet you.
I have an opening question that I throw out at people, and I'm going to forego it this time because we're here to talk about your book. And I wonder if you could share with us, whatever it is you want to tell us before you leave, and hopefully you stick around, and how you came to write the book and what you want us to take from it.
Sure. Well, the book is called Before I Leave You, a memoir on suicide, addiction, and healing. I mean, spoiler alert, I'm still here, but it started as I'll go back. I mean, in the infancy of building a company, I'm an entrepreneur in tech. A repressed memory came back, and I didn't know what to do. And the book is really about working through that memory and that trauma. And in the beginning, really not working through it, really just deciding not to be anymore, just not to be alive. I had decided to commit suicide, and in trying to do that in leaving Las Vegas fashion. So just trying to spend whatever I had left and consume whatever I could in trying to die. And what started as a secret goodbye later became a book. So I wrote down an explanation as to why I decided to die. And this is, I'm very, just in a linear fashion, this is very logical, like it's too much pain. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to, let this pain trigger anyone else's. I have to die, and this is why. And I created a list of things that I have to do, my own checklist of things before I commit suicide. And that's, in writing that, it became, it turned into a large apology letter. I to apologize to the people I love for doing this to them. And then writing it out, just kept on writing, and I was incredibly self-indulgent, incredibly raw and honest, because I wasn't planning on publishing or sharing this with anyone other than after I was gone. But the writing itself turned into a form of therapy, and I, after a couple of botched attempts, that's my daughter in my background, I decided to seek therapy. And decided that I didn't want to die, and part of therapy was more writing, and more writing to that 8-year-old boy who experienced that violent trauma. And but along the way, there's a lot of stumbles, a lot of foibles, and more attempts, and I eventually sort of clawed my way back. And it's funny, I really got into the drug scene, and some of those drugs I feel helped heal, even though I was definitely abusing them, with MDMA, and then there was the psilocybin, the magic mushroom part, which I hated, and it was a terrible trip, but it turned into something a lot more. And I shared my writings with my then girlfriend, who was a part of that downward journey. And she encouraged me to share it. She's like, I think people can benefit from the story, and that's when it turned into something more. It turned into something that, you know, I can help people sharing the story, and it's sharing a lot of stuff that I don't think people are comfortable sharing. But and yeah, and obviously it turned into the healing journey, and we've talked before. That's it. It's a smaller portion at the end of the book, but how I clawed my way back, and what helped me heal, and well, integrate. And I like to use the word integrate because, like, it's still there. Like, it's like the memories are there. I think it's but it's enveloped, and I can face it, and I can talk about it, and, you know, and I can write about it. So yeah, that's the story from a 30,000 foot view.
Well, and I was impressed a lot of times about your strength and perseverance, because, you know, I deal with a lot of people over the years who have debilitating anxiety or depression, and they come to view themselves as weak. And I, as a
Right.
therapist who's watched this, I know they're some of the strongest people I ever encounter. Because if I'm dealing with somebody who's functioning,
Right.
getting up and going to work, and they have crushing anxiety, they're terrified, they're dripping sweat every time they have to interact with somebody, and they just keep doing it. I know I'm dealing with one of the strongest people I'm ever going to meet. And that was
Right.
one of the things that came through to me in reading your book is I can't imagine going through that much trauma. And of course, a lot of it was self-induced with the drugs and the partying, but then you just kept going, and something gave you the strength to pull out of it. What do you suppose that is? What was it in you that was the root of the strength that helped you pull out of the nosedive?
Yeah, I think with a lot of, you know, those clients, you know, they're living two full-time lives, right? Like, they really are, and that gets exhausting. And when you're that tired, I think you have no choice but to look inward and say, like, I can't keep this up, and it's got to go one way or the other. And I think it just gets down to, you know, fight or flight. I think we generally want to live. I think as a base, we want to live. We want to be happy. We want to get rid, like, shed that other life off, so you can live your true authentic self, and whatever that means. Like, you can build that. At first, I really don't know what drove me. I think in a lot of those moments, even high, like MDMA is one of those, right? Those serotonin induced happiness. You're like, I would love to be this happy for real. Like, for it not to be fake, or and I think it was just reaching for something that, you know, is possible, which and I don't know how I knew it was possible, to be whole, to be happy, and having this memory in this past, but still be positive and happy and grateful for it, because it turned me into who I am as a father and a husband and a friend. Um, so I think it takes a lot to get there, but I think, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just an ambitious guy. I wanted to be happy.
Well, and that's one of the things that I did get from this, is that your ambition. And one of the things that really struck me was that despite all of the trauma, you ended up choosing another another choice you made indicated to me the deep strength you have as a person when you decided to walk away from the business so you could be present for your family. Because at the level you were functioning, you basically weren't there. I mean, you talked about getting
Right.
up early in the morning, a little extra early at 4:30, so you could have a few minutes with your daughter and wife, and then a little bit at night before you go to bed, and that's it.
Yeah.
And if you stay working at that level, as so many people do, that's their whole experience of being a parent or being a family member. And something in you chose different. What do you suppose allowed you that strength?
I think there's momentum, and it was in writing the book where I had that epiphany that the work was as much of an addiction as anything else. The work is the distraction from looking inward, right? The work, like the work is just another drug. Now we have social media and our phones. They're just another way of looking outward and not in yourself. And for me, in my journey, it was timing. I was healing but stumbling, and then healing a little more. And what started out, I think I described it as, I'll take one step forward, maybe 5 steps back at first, and then achieve some momentum, and eventually one step, and then 5 steps forward, one step back. And again, timing. Once my wife was pregnant, that was a no tolerance. I'm like, okay, well, there's no more steps back now, because it's more than about me. That said, like, I'm still working, and at the same time, I'm trying to redeem myself with my business partners. Right, we're building a company now worth over $1 billion, and those guys were incredibly attuned, incredibly brilliant, and hyper performers. And I was building a team of that, but at the same time, I'm all messed up. Like, so I felt I had to, like, atone for that. And I got re-obsessed with work, and again, not focused on myself, now not focused on my daughter and wife. So I think it was a realization, and I'm writing this book too, and I'm there thinking, holy shit, I'm doing it again. And so yeah, stepping back. And again, like, I was able to, I mean, we couldn't afford our lifestyle, so we sold all our belongings before we went traveling, but I was able to, like, step back and realize some I guess flexibility there. And so we just traveled, and we're nomadic, and it was the best decision of my life. Like the Monday after the Friday that I left, my daughter learned to crawl in front of me, and that was a big deal for me. And I think that was, uh, a metaphor for or a good sign anyway.
Well, I'm trying to find this one spot in the book where you talk about how we're going to make mistakes. I'm cleaning up the language a little bit. And if we want to move forward, we must avoid getting stuck in the depths of self-hatred. We get back up and we try again. It sucks, it's painful, but this is life. Life is suffering in that it can be inconvenient and it presents challenges. It's how we choose to deal with it that defines our character, our happiness, and our life. And I thought that is just such powerful stuff for anybody who's dealing with addiction or trying to overcome a pattern, a destructive pattern. It's rare. It's very rare. It does happen. Occasionally we find somebody, they were drinking for 30 years and they just decide to stop and they never drink again, or the same with smoking. But those are the wild exception. Most of us try over and over and over again. And I like what you said there. If we avoid the trap of self-hatred,
Yeah.
it makes climbing back up a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to fail. I've given speeches to graduating classes where I lead with, "You are all going to fail," and a lot of it, I look at some of the teachers and they're all looking at each other. I'm like, and what a wonderful gift that is, right? You failure is such a bad word, but like for me, in my space, like for entrepreneurs, especially, like, failure is a building blocks, like, to success. You learn, you end up being grateful of the failures because it builds your character, and not demonizing it and thinking you're less because of, like, you're human because of, right? I think it could be very, very powerful. But to forgive yourself, to love yourself, to be like, to laugh at yourself, be like, wow, that was a major screw up, right? Like, to be able to laugh at yourself. And when healing from a trauma or addiction, I think they're connected. I think knowing that there's no panacea, right? You're not going to take a drug and it's going to be better. You're not going to discover meditation and everything's going to be better. It's going to be an arduous journey. There's going to be hiccups, but it's momentum, right? It's progress, not perfection. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, I loved one motivational spiritual teacher I was talking to, and I was listening to one of her talks, and she said that she was talking to these high-ranking business leaders about how they're going to need to fail and face that. And one of them came up to her after the talk and said, "Okay, I'm ready to risk failing." And she said, "No, you don't get it. It's not risking failing. It's failing.
Yeah.
It's going way outside your comfort zone." And she said the guy just blanched white and nervous, and because we've built such a, as you said, this kind of a mindset around it, so horrible. And yet we don't learn anywhere near as much from our successes as we do from our failures and our missteps.
Oh, yeah. And you don't appreciate your success that much, right? If you just fall into success, it's not what I don't think it's what we're built for, right? I mean, we all start at different places, but to really enjoy achievement, you have to struggle. You really do.
Another thing that really struck me was you were talking about the loving kindness meditation and how difficult that was for you in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a powerful laying in bed, and your partner said, "Let's listen to this." How'd that go for you?
So, I mean, I was not a frou-frou guy back then. I was very logical, very atheistic, and I didn't really appreciate spirituality, and it's funny how much I've changed. But I've struggled. I struggled with the Catholicism, and my journey is that. Yeah, when my wife, was so encouraging. She says, let's just listen to a meditation in the morning. And now I actually forget because that first one wasn't loving kindness. It was
it's okay to have a good day.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
you
will be okay. It's okay. Yeah. You will have a good day today, right? And it was just over and over again. And the first time I'm like, oh yeah, I'll have a good day. And then it was just this beautiful voice saying, and just really gentle, you will have a good day today. And like every time she said it, and it turned into like really so much discomfort. Like, no, I don't deserve to have a good day. And that's not, I'm just not deserving of that, and stop saying it, and me freaking out and just hiding it. And then I describe in the book, which you're probably alluding to, run to the washroom and just sort of fake it, but like just break down. And it was just a 5-minute meditation, but it's awakened something much, much deeper in me. And, getting into like real meditation, and getting into the loving kindness meditation, which whenever I sign my book, I actually open it up to page 310, and I put a heart there and I underline that loving kindness meditation. That changes so much, wishing yourself well, wishing the people you love well, wishing the people that have wronged you, and wishing the people that you don't know so much love. It changes I think it just changes your neural chemistry for sure, especially doing it over and over again. And even now, I'm in a new company. We're looking at competitors and stuff, kind of like playing an advisory role. And these young founders are, we're competitors. So let's look at these as competitors. And like, no, just wish them well. It's not about taking a piece of pie. It's about making a bigger pie. It changed my outlook as a human, and forgiving the people and the person that caused my trauma, like that. That's a whole passage that is crazy triggering still today. But I did it, right. I think you wish people well. And it goes back to the quote we were speaking before we hit record here, right? Like if we can just lead with love and realize we're all one, I think it changes your perspective, changes your approach to people.
Yeah. Do you know of Pierre Pradervan's book, The Gentle Art of Blessing?
No.
Yeah,
No.
you would thoroughly enjoy that book. I had the honor of interviewing him a few years ago now, I guess. And a number of years before that, when I was leading a book group, it was a 4.5-year thing. So we did over 50 books. That book was by far the most well-received. And I think we had 17 people on the call. No less than 9 stopped the call to say, but I got to tell you my experience with it. They'd only had the book 3 or 4 weeks, but they were using the practice and it was changing their lives.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. The Gentle Art of Blessing by Pierre Pradervan.
And that, I mean, is that the same sort of idea? Just
it's very much
exactly
the same.
that.
That's what brought it to mind, right? Here's this loving kindness meditation that you hear a lot about from the Buddhist tradition. And his idea is that you go into your heart center and you think the most high level, loving respect. You see this person in their highest and best, and then you send that loving heart energy from your heart center to them. Right. And you see them, if they're being impatient, if they're being rude, if they're being angry, you see them being patient, being loving, being gentle. And it's very much the same thing. You're wishing them well. May you be well.
Right. Yeah, may be well. Yeah, I think, well, everything I got from that perspective was Sharon Salzberg's books, With Real Love and Real Kindness. And yeah, they really changed, like I read them often. They really changed my perspective. And I really delved deeply into Buddhism, being like a practicing Buddhist. And that's why we chose Southeast Asia to travel with our daughter. You know, we went to a lot of Buddhist countries and a lot of temples and spoke to, nuns and monks along the way.
Well, so, if we assume that because of my time limitations, we're reaching close to the end, we've got 5 or 10 minutes left here. What's an aspect of your life or this book or where you're going in building your happier life that we haven't even touched on yet that you want to talk about?
So with respect to healing, yeah, like I said earlier, there's no one thing, right? For me, it was all of them, right? Like it wasn't just meditation, but meditation was a huge part, especially at the beginning, to help me sleep, to help me focus. And then that turned into something more spiritual, and something that changed my approach to other humans and that I fell in love with. I think gratitude journaling, I do that every morning, and I have probably 10 or 20 things that are the same, and then I try to be grateful for other people in my life, and that change every day. Journaling in general, I think helped me a lot. I think we know that we're purpose driven. That's I think our psyche. My purpose was it changes. I mean, but once my kids were born, my first that actually decided my purpose for me. But I wanted to be good. I wanted permission to be a good human, a good male. A good father, husband, friend, son, brother. Like I just wanted to be good, and I wanted to give myself permission to be that good person. So, and that's not just a decision. That's going out and figuring out how do I do that, and it requires effort. What makes a good man, and I really dug into masculinity and what it means, and that's a whole that's a whole topic that probably could take up another podcast. I've obviously therapy, and once I decided to meet with someone that I could trust and be real with, and I think with therapists, it's very much a connection. And I speak about it in the book. Like you interview the people that interview your therapist, right, to see if there is a connection, if there is a level of comfort, and are you going like it, are you is that comfort there and you're not willing to share, or is there both, right? Like I think that I went in, and once I met someone that called me on my bull, I decided to be 100%. I'm just gonna say it like it is, yes, I'm still taking drugs, I'm still lying, I'm still doing these things that I don't think is making me a good person, which is embarrassing to admit, right? Especially to a stranger. But that worked, right? So I think therapy was an enormous part of that. Although I took, a cocktail of drugs while I was partying, I didn't I was too afraid to do anything other drugs, anything psychological. Right? So for me personally, that I was afraid of it. But I know, they can be very helpful, with the proper guidance, the proper therapist. Yeah, like there are so many things. I think knowing that, like gratitude and meditation, those were my morning rituals. And I think as like if you do it every morning, you're reminded every morning. It's top of mind every morning, and it's top of mind throughout the day. And you have to meditate. If you have to meditate twice a day, that's great as well, to give yourself that space and take 5 minutes, 10 minutes and relax, put away your phone, breathe, just breathe. I think that gets us forward. And but I think addicts talk, about day to day. It could be minute to minute. Sometimes life happens, life will happen, sometimes it's week by week, but you come back to the practice, and that's why they call it a practice. And it regrounds you. So yeah, like I said, and I say it in the book, there's no one-stop shop to healing. It's very integrative. It's I think just gives you a new perspective on the same memories and the same feelings. So I can use what I've been through to help people, to inform who I am as a father, right? Like I think that's paramount for me.
Well, and that's a learning process too, especially when you didn't have like the ideal role model as parents. So, it's just like we've learned to lie, and we've learned to hide, and we've learned to run and cover up. Well, we need to learn to stand and to be honest and to uncover and to face what comes up. And that's why that's another part of that practice, is that if I went my first, 20 or 30 years of my life learning all of these unproductive patterns, now I've got to learn some more productive patterns and practice them until they become habit, and hopefully eventually strengthen that habit until it becomes default. But the old tapes are in there. So if I let my guard down, which is why, as you say, make it a daily practice is the key to success.
Huge. And like we know, like your clients know there's something more, right? Like that's why they're there. They know that they can be where they want to be, but it does require effort, and it does require a little bit of suffering, because you have to look into the deepest, darkest corners of your own, of yourself, which is scary as hell. It really is. And admitting, like when I had my first psilocybin experience, I was high in ecstasy and I did a bunch of mushrooms, and man, it was terrifying and disgusting and brutal. And it was a mirror to who I was at the time. And it sucked. And it sucked because then I hated it so much for so long. And months went by. I'm like, no, I don't like that drug. It's a bad trip. It's like it was just a mirror. It really was just a mirror. And it literally forced me to, not forced me, I mean, it was standing in the back of my mind. I'm like, what did I see? I'm like, I saw this off person, and I know it was me. So, and I knew I had to change. So for me, that helped me tremendously. And I think it opened me up to pushing through therapy and working that out with those tools, right?
Well,
like there's so many other tools we didn't talk about.
Right, but the key to that is that you had made the decision to turn and face it. right?
Yeah.
Because you have decided, and that's one of the things that comes out in the book, is you're being raw in your honesty. You're being, fundamentally honest. And the books that have really spoken to me in the last few years have that as a theme. We Are the Luckiest by Laura McGowan. It just talks so deeply about the need for that fundamental honesty, raw honesty. And your book does the same. And what I've experienced in working with people and being able to go through the journey of therapy with so many people over the last 48 years is that's the only thing that works, right? Every time I'm lying to myself or somebody else, I'm just creating more problems.
Yeah. I think we are all looking for permission to, it's funny, letting go of that ego, letting go of the person who's going to be embarrassed about what comes out, right? Letting go of the person or that ego who tells us that, that didn't happen, that couldn't have happened. And I can't be like that. But meanwhile, our actions show that we are that, our thoughts show that we are that. Once you reconcile the two, you're whole, right? And you can start working on the rest of you. What was that last book? We Are the Best of Us?
We Are the Luckiest.
We Are the Luckiest.
The Surprising Magic of a Sober Life, Laura McGowan.
Okay. Good. Got some homework to do. Usually I'm the one that gives the homework.
Well, this has been delightful. I thank you so much. You mentioned at some other time, there's a whole other topic we can go into. And so I'll reach back to you in about a year and see if you're ready to do another and give us another take on another slice of how you're building that happy life.
Yeah, that'd be great. Super fun.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Robert Imbeault is a successful entrepreneur and critically acclaimed author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Before I Leave You, a memoir on suicide, addiction, and healing. He is currently the chief operating officer of a wellness company and lives in Ottawa, Canada with his wife and daughters. In Before I Leave You, Robert shares his real and raw account of how he clawed his way back from the brink, forgave himself, and wrote a new ending to his story. After a series of small steps forward and a few steps back, Robert found his way to sobriety. He regained his health and began to treat himself and everyone around him with love and kindness. Today, Robert enjoys a life filled with gratitude and joy he thought he'd never live to see.
You've been listening to the On Your Mind podcast, offered by Journey's Dream, where we support people through mental health challenges to a place of true and lasting well-being. If you love our show, we invite you to visit onyourmindpodcast.org to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our helpful resources. Thank you for listening.